John, have we packed the essentials?
What's essential?
We're going to a drag strip, so we need some essential stuff.
I got water.
No, dude. We need Fritos and race gas. John, do you pay attention to our community tab?
Seems like every time that I open it up, you've posted something stupid.
That's kind of the point.
So
I posted a couple days ago a poll. I told everybody that pays attention to the tab that we have a ton of footage that is pretty much completely unrelated to each other. And I didn't know if I wanted to make it all one long video or two long videos, because that's just the norm at this point. If you don't like two-part videos and you didn't vote, this is your fault. I'm just being honest with you.
okay.
I don't like two-part videos, but I can't think of a good way to do this. The first part of this is servicing that car. That car never left the 1960s, even when I built it. It's built with all 1960s stuff, so it requires a 1960s service. Let me tell you, we didn't grow up in the 60s. We are not mechanics. You should fact check everything I say in the next however long the video ended up being. And if you do what I do and you break your stuff, it's not my fault. You can't sue me. I will throw the subpoena away.
This is not professional advice.
This is not legal mechanical advice. You get the point. Let's go back a couple days to when we were servicing this car. And then the second part of this is going to be this car, which is really going to need less than that one did.
Actually, a lot less.
Anyway, let's go back. John, we have a week to get ready for No Name.
We had a week like 2 days ago.
Did we do anything to the jet since we took it to the strip?
No, not really.
Nothing. We did nothing.
Yeah, not really.
We did nothing at all. There's a lot more preparation we need to do with another vehicle that's going to No Name, and that's my 65 Plymouth Sport Fury. And it's never been on a long road trip like what's about to happen. I mean, how far is it to Sikeston from here?
4.5-ish hours, miles? I don't know.
Today we're going to be doing the full service on this car to make sure that it's going to make the trip to Sikeston. What that entails is tire rotation, checking the brakes, changing the oil, checking out the air filter, adjusting the carburetor, setting the valve lash, and checking the ignition timing and the points. Those are probably going to be fine. I think I changed those like 2 months ago. And we picked a beautiful day to do it because it's totally, you know, not raining or anything, or hadn't been, and my windows were totally up when it rained.
Sure.
I guess one of the most important things that you would want to check out if you're going to take a classic car on a road trip is you want to make sure that the brakes are going to work. So I guess the best place to start would be to go ahead and just jack this thing up and pop the wheels off and pop the brake drums off. While that's all to, you know, apart, we'll just rotate the tires. Let's just establish an order of operations here. Check the brakes, tire rotation, oil change, get it warmed up so we can check the valves. Once the valves are set, we'll be able to check out the ignition, make sure that that's working good, and then adjust the carburetor. And then that's it. It's done. It's ready to go. You know, never dull clean that right up.
Yeah.
It'll also reduce drag and save gas.
Technically.
Luckily, we won't be doing anything under the back of this car, so us being short on stands isn't gonna matter.
I have more stands.
Do we have them with us?
No.
Well, then we're short on stands. We're not getting under the back. We'll be okay. We're not doing things unsafe. The front's got stands on it. They're Harbor Freight stands, but so is that canopy, and that's blocking the shade just fine.
Jack, but this one's like 25 years old, so it might actually be okay.
Do you know why you do a tire rotation, John? That might be a stupid question, but do you know why? It's because there's more weight on the front of the car than there is on the back. So your tires will sit like, you know, this, and the tread won't wear evenly. So you rotate them front to back so that they wear the same. You know what I've never done on this car?
A tire rotation?
Yup. Before I had the alignment done on this car, the shoulders of the tires were just completely wearing flat. After Garrett aligned it, they've done okay. Mainly because I replaced the tires. Can't break if it doesn't exist. I'm pretty sure this is an original drum. The only thing is, that looks like millimeters to me, and I don't know if they did that from the factory back then. So I don't know if these are original or not, but either way, they're drums, so they don't ever really wear out. They do go out of round more than disc brakes do, but the shoes rarely ever wear out. And the reason that drums go out of round more than discs warp is because there's a lot more heat soaking going on in drum brakes.
Well, I mean, if you come to an emergency stop and you stay stopped, the heat's going to keep soaking into just that one part of the drum.
Yeah.
So
while drum brakes, you know, last longer, they technically don't, and they don't work as well. But I don't want to put discs on this, so, you know, whatever. This tire's got some wear on it. See how it's wearing on the outside here? There's a bit of an alignment that needs to be made, and this tire is okay for the trip, but it's going on the back. I believe the camber's out of adjustment, so we'll bring that to a shop later. You know what I don't have? A spare. I didn't order 5 of these wheels when I got these wheels. These are definitely the newer tires.
oh yeah.
Yeah, these are definitely the newer ones. These are going on the front.
Nice and square. Just take a peek.
Ooh, that's dirty. Don't look like it's leaking, just looks dirty.
Filth. Filthy, but not bad.
Yeah, don't look like anything's blown, so that's good. Nothing that brake cleaner won't take care of. I rebuilt these brakes like years ago, so they all work great. Just, Jesus, are they nasty. We should rotate the front drums to the back and see what happens.
Yeah, because that's totally something that people ever actually could do at all.
These are the original wheel studs, you know how I know? Because that R right there, do you know why there's an R there?
Because the drunk guy putting the car together needed to know to put it on the back of the car.
No, that doesn't mean rear, that means right. On the driver's side, the factory studs are left-hand thread.
Oh.
I changed them out after taking it to a tire shop, and they snapped all of my studs because
They didn't know it was
didn't know.
lefty-loosey.
Yeah.
Or lefty-tighty.
If you're gonna have one of these cars, you probably need to change out those studs. Why is this one stuck?
I don't know. Hit it with a hammer. Smack it with your purse, Bobby.
There's a ridge in this drum. It's caught on the shoes. You want to know why you inspect stuff? Check out in there. You can see it. You can see it clear as day. See that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna send it anyway. I've been driving it like this forever. It's fine.
This is why everybody drives trucks now, because cars just can't handle it. That's why you have to have a Raptor to go get groceries.
Didn't we rebuild this front end like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
That tie rod should be under warranty. We've discovered a few things in the beginning of this inspection. One tire wearing unevenly, but still okay. There's 3 brake drums that are stuck because the ridges in the back of the drum won't let it come completely off, and I'm not gonna spend hours adjusting the brakes out to get them off. And there's a bad tie rod end. So I'm calling that 50-50. Pass. We just drove it last night. The brakes work great. It's just when you start looking at it closer than you would normally look at it that it starts coming out. I guess change the oil and check the other stuff. Being that this is a 1960s engine, it has the, you know, well known to fail during break-in solid lifter cam, meaning that you have to have zinc additive every time you change the oil in this car. And that pretty much ups the price of an oil change by like, you know, $25 or so. That is unless you buy the Lucas Hot Rod and Classic motor oil that has the zinc additive in it. Now, if you don't know, you need to have zinc additive for solid lifter camshafts. Why, John?
They'll eat themselves if they don't actually have a lubrication layer.
The zinc adds a sacrificial layer between the lifter and the camshaft, and if you don't have that, then the sacrificial layer to the camshaft becomes the lifter, and then you have a very bad day.
It really depends on which one's tougher.
Modern oils do not have the additive because there's no car made with a solid lifter camshaft anymore, and catalytic converters are a thing, and zinc burning, if your engine burns oil, which inevitably will burn a little bit because of the PCV system, it will wreck your catalytic converter. And that's why this oil does not have the API donut, because there's no way it would ever meet the standard.
It means it's good.
It means it's good for this car and this style of engine, but not for a modern car at all. How much metal was on the plug?
It had some fur.
Well, as long as there's no big shiny chunks, I'm good with it. That means that this oil does its job because I use it exclusively.
Did you use this last time?
Yeah, that's the only oil I use now.
You have to special order it?
I can get it from O'Reilly's in a couple hours. It's no big deal. It's like not even that expensive. I think 6 quarts of it was like 60 bucks.
Lube, pre-lube, spin More.
Wait, there's instructions
There's
on
instructions.
an oil filter? Why is there instructions on a Mopar oil filter?
It's just telling you what they think of you.
So Mopar just thinks you're an idiot.
A lot of Mopar customers. I'm just telling you. I've seen 96-month financing advertised.
At 28%.
On base model Chargers.
The oil filter's changed out. There's nothing in it now. So now is obviously the best time to run it. Because you want to hear that solid lifter noise, man. That's part of it. It sounds so good. It's like a typewriter.
I have a bunch of thoughts about this.
People were probably gonna say we should fill up the oil filter before we screw it on. There's still oil all over everything. It'll be fine. I've done it every time. It's been okay. Haven't had a lifter die yet. Maybe today's the day. Yeah, we're done under the car.
Except for the header dripping.
That'll burn itself off.
Well, I hit it with brake clean to get most of the oil.
Well, then it'll definitely burn off when it catches fire. Here's the problem. I never remember how much oil this engine holds. Believe it or not, the owner's manual says that it holds 4 quarts of oil, which is just not accurate at all. And it says to do that with a filter change like +1, but that's not the same filter. It doesn't hold the same amount. I always end up buying 6 quarts and then putting 5 in and checking it, and then just holding on to the 6 in case I need it.
That's probably fine. As well as the owner's manual tells you, you don't even have to change the oil filter every time, don't they?
Yeah, that's how they used to do it, though. You'd only change the filter like every few thousand miles, and then you just change the oil, but nowadays just change the filter at the same time. I don't know why they wrote it like that.
Well, it's because they wanted to sell you a car, replace the one you've got with a worn out engine that has 80,000 miles on it.
Yeah, probably. You know, marketing never really changed. It's the same today as it was then.
You know, the oil change intervals on my 85 Pontiac are 5 to 7,500 miles according to the factory specs. 5 is fine.
I change this one every 3. We should put this in my Mercury and see how long the cats live.
Bro, your car's missing like 3 out of 4. Like, I know I've seen chunks of catalytic converter blow out the tailpipe one time in that car.
And then it got louder.
Yeah.
The Cadillac converter, isn't that what people call them? Cadillac converter? It's like a PVC valves. PVC.
Bruh.
Speaking of PVC valves, you know, positive ventilation crankcase valves.
I was thinking polyvinyl chloride, but okay.
These breather caps, right? You won't see these anymore either, these ones with the holes in them, because they vent directly to atmosphere. And what it used to do was it would just blow all of those, you know, particles all over the valve cover. So I took a breather cap that had an end on it and trying to keep oil fumes from getting blown on the engine and just making the thing all nasty, I connected connectors all the way to the other PCV valve, not understanding that the cap didn't have a PCV valve in it, and it just created a gigantic vacuum leak.
I am so confused.
I basically created my own vacuum leak trying to keep my engine from getting dirty.
Fun.
That was great. We're gonna have to get it on the ground. But the good thing is that there's definitely oil in it. I only put 5 quarts in it, and if that was accurate, it says it has 7 in it, which is not accurate at all. And it's all clean, so
Unless
it's mixed with old oil.
Oh, so all the old oil did come out.
Yeah, all the old oil's out, but it's sitting so wrong that you can't check the oil. Let's get it back on the ground.
Oh, that's... Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
So now what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Now the jack is stuck, so that's good. This has gone well from the start. Well, after some careful manipulation with whatever you smacked on the jack with, I think we're in good shape now. Let's hope this thing doesn't just slam down on the ground and then roll off the stands. Easy. It's coming down easy now. Okay, good. Okay. Okay. No, okay. Well, it went down. Where's the keys? Why do I do this?
I don't know.
They're in my pocket.
Bruh.
Hear that little bit noise? It sounds better than what I just did. That's the solid lifters. That's what you want to hear. It's like a typewriter. We're going to let her run because you can only adjust valves when it's warm. So now you got to let it warm up and check the valves, and then we're pretty much good. We'll check the ignition and the carburetor after the valves, because that's going to... There's an order of operations to this. Valves, ignition, carburetor. Now the engine's warmed up and we're ready to do something no one else has to do on a modern car ever. It's setting valve lash. Over time, as things get hot and cool off and, you know, expand and contract, your valves can get out of adjustment. So that's why you gotta do this. And I do this pretty much every oil change. You adjust it, you know, as you're turning the engine over. You can do that with a regular old ratchet crank on the engine. Some people do it while the engine is running, and I have no idea how they do that. I don't have that kind of skill. Or you can just use a cheater button and do it as you go. I prefer this way because I'm lazy. All we gotta do is take off the valve covers. That'll give us a good chance to inspect the gaskets, which will not be in stock at any part store around here. We're just gonna hope they're good.
Cool.
Poly heads only have 2 valve cover bolts, and that's one of their defining characteristics. Some of them have 3, some of them have a 3rd one in the middle. I'm not quite sure why they only used 2 bolts to hold them on, but I imagine it was because this was a regular service, so you'd be taking this valve cover off quite a bit. It seems to do okay. They don't leak. So this gasket has seen better days. but it's not leaking. You can see where it's conformed to the head. Probably gonna need a new gasket sometime in its future, but I'm not getting one today. So you can see the valve train is in beautiful condition.
Probably not even really gonna have to adjust anything here.
Probably not, but every time I change the oil, I do it anyway. I'm paranoid, and I didn't grow up in the 60s. I don't know exactly how often you're supposed to check it. I just do it every oil change. If you're having to make a constant adjustment all the time, you probably got a problem. Intake 18, exhaust 20. Do you know how to set valves, John?
I have done it.
On this one, as soon as the exhaust valve is starting to open, you set the intake valve. And as soon as the intake valve is starting to close, you set the exhaust valve.
I remember we did that on this the first time you brought it over because we had no idea where they were, and they were just completely all over the place.
They were all over the place. It hadn't been done in a very long time. Or that cam in that old engine is just done. Either one is equally plausible. I still have the old engine, which we should do something with. So we'll try to get the exhaust valve opening, and that's when we'll set the intake. We'll just go top, down, and then go to the other side. So, starting to open. 18. It's awfully tight. So since that's a little bit tight, I'm gonna loosen her up a little bit. That's the one thing you can't get in a video though, you can't get the feel. Although, I think you can tell that goes under and comes out pretty easy. Call that one good. Now we'll get it with the intakes closing and set the exhaust. Intakes start to close. Check the exhaust. It's a little tiny bit tight. It's probably okay, but I'm gonna give her a little bit. There we go. Alright, cylinder one's done. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, that side's done.
And just put her back and repeat.
Yep, put it back on, do the same the other side. It's that easy. I'm gonna cut this down, but that was done in like, I don't know, what?
5 minutes and 41, 2, 3.
Yeah, so like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Nothing. It's easy. Yeah, so this valve cover gasket is like the exact same deal, but it's not leaking, so I'm not gonna worry about it as long as it stays together. Like that looks like a crack. No, it's just where it's been imprinted on the head.
So far you've had like 3 valves that actually needed to be adjusted, right?
Yeah, they not many of them really needed adjustment at all. It's always very, very minute, and that's a good thing. Because if you had to make major adjustments every single time, that's very bad. If you have to make little to no adjustment, then you're okay. Well, now the valves are set, we can move on to ignition. I had changed these points a while back because I'm pretty sure we drove this car to a parking lot and I completely took apart the distributor and discovered that a point set had failed.
One of them was dead, yeah.
So we drove it home on one set of points. So I had no choice but to change out the points.
That's the good thing about the dual point.
Yeah, you can drive it home on one set. It's not designed that way, but it works that way. Realistically, all I'm doing is I'm just going to check to see if the dwell's still the same, which, if it is, with a V8 on a dual point like this, you should get between 30 to 35 degrees of dwell. This is another one of those obsolete tools no one uses anymore. Make sure she's set to dwell. This dwell meter only likes to read when the car's running for some reason, so you'll be able to hear how the valves are, too.
That font is just awesome.
Yeah, dude, that thing was built in like the 70s. It was new in the box when I got it.
35.
35? Yeah, with both points set at 26 degrees each, that's acceptable. It's on the high end of where I would want it, but that's totally fine. So we know that the dwell is good. We have a new set of plugs, which this car probably needs a new set of plugs. But before we do all that, I have a can of seafoam. Well, that's not supposed to come out with it. Okay. Carbon is a thing, especially with these old engines, and while the best thing to do would be to pop the cylinder head off and, you know, take a wire wheel to it and clean out all the combustion chambers, unfortunately I don't think we'll be able to get that done before the sun goes down.
Or we can just seafoam it because it freaking works.
Yeah, seafoam works. Seafoam does do good stuff. You want to do seafoam when the engine's warm, and I have a new set of plugs, so I'm going to do it before we put a new set of plugs in it. That just seems like a good idea.
Shouldn't be too bad. This ain't the first time it's been done.
No, it's not. But
So-
it's gonna be smoky. If you want to get in the car and hold the throttle, I will pour the seafoam. Now, if you're one of the 4 people in the universe that works on cars and hasn't heard of seafoam, it's designed to remove carbon, you know, as best as something in a can can possibly do, and it actually does a very good job. What you basically do is while the engine's running, bring her up to, you know, around, 1,500, 2,000 RPMs, and you slowly trickle this into the intake system, and you can do that on fuel injection or a carburetor. It doesn't matter, it'll work on both. I'm going to just just pour this directly down the carburetor until the bottle's out, let it sit for a little bit, and then when she fires back up, you'll see all the smoke that comes out. That's carbon burning off of everywhere where this thing removed carbon, and it was able to burn. Why am I just not pouring this in the gas tank? It doesn't work as well. It takes longer, and when you do it like this, you get more seafoam than if you were to use the spray version that you just connect to the car. Whereas this, you can just trickle it in, you're not gonna hurt anything. Okay, John, fire it up. Just keep her from dying, you know, nothing too crazy. Okay, that whole bottle's in there now. We'll let her sit and then fire her back up. And then she's gonna need a plug change for sure. Even though it looks sketchy to probably most people, this genuinely works. And we're not sponsored by Seafoam, but hey, you know, hit us up.
I've totally...
I want some of that Seafoam money.
Cataclean.
That stuff I've heard does work too, but we don't do emissions in Tennessee anymore, so it doesn't matter. 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll fire back up. Then the next thing to do would be to immediately change the plugs once it's done smoking. And then it's gonna be adjusting the carburetor for highest vacuum, because this thing's gonna get terrible gas mileage on the way up. So let's try to get all we can out of it.
At least you got highway gears.
Yeah, it's got 294 rear gear, which is not fun, but it saves money. It sure sounds cool doing 80 though.
Sounds better doing 100.
I've had this car up to 135. She's screaming. And it's terrifying, because as soon as you hit 135, you remember, wait a minute.
This is almost 60 years old.
This is a 60-year-old car with four-wheel drums that, you know, I wouldn't trust to stop very well more than at least once. You get one good stop out of the drums, but past that, you're hitting fade. Well, it's been like, I don't know, what, 10, 15 minutes? Yeah. Somewhere around there. We're ready for the smoke show, so go ahead and start her up. Doing something.
Take her for a spin.
I drove it down the highway to clear throat. She ran great. Noticed there was a little bit of new oil there, and then I noticed that this ear is coming out a little bit too far. You see how I can push the gasket down?
Oh.
Yeah, that's...
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta make sure that stays in its little holder or else it'll leak. No big deal, just gotta fix that. The problem is that all these ears are cracked on this gasket, and that's what holds it centered when you're putting it back on. But if I can snake it up and then push it up a little bit, it should seal against itself and it'll be fine. New valve cover gaskets are in this engine's future.
That's exactly what happened. It was just dangling down there a little bit right below it.
Yeah, and it leaked on the header right there, so...
Yeah,
it's okay.
My bad.
That's all good. I can tighten her back up and she should be fine. See, these are Molly gaskets too. The M-A-H-L-E Molly.
Is that how you're supposed to pronounce that?
Molly, Male, whatever. I don't know.
That one. I've never heard it said. I've only seen it printed.
I think most people are afraid to say it because they look dumb.
Yeah.
Thing is, I'm not afraid of looking dumb. I'm thinking we need to go buy a lottery ticket, John.
Why? Because every one of those spark plugs is perfectly gapped?
Yeah, out of the box. Perfectly fine. I got these plugs at 035 and that is perfect. I've never had that happen. Let's pull this front plug out because I want to see how she's been running, because these plugs have been in here for a long time.
Is this the first set of plugs that was on this engine, or is it?
Yeah.
Oh, so you haven't changed them at all since you built it?
No, we did just run seafoam through it, but I don't think that's going to take off years of wear.
Maybe not years, maybe hours.
Ow, 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 hot, hot. Well, that's a little lean. That's a little bit lean.
Focusing on my hand, not the plug.
That's not the beautiful cinnamon color you want. It's a little lean. But we did just run seafoam through it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. You know, let's change these out.
Alrighty.
This won't take long.
Cut to later. Alrighty, so the left-hand side is done. New plugs in it.
The ones that came out of the driver's side are the ones that are facing down. The ones that came out of the passenger side are the ones that are facing towards the back. I realized that we pulled these plugs after we seafoamed it, and looking at that white ash, it's on all of them. It's completely uniform. I am unsure if it's because it's running lean or if the
Seafoam just works.
just worked and put carbon on the plugs and just clean them off, so like instantly, because usually old carbon would just be black. From what I can tell, everything's good and nothing's melted down, so I'd say that the tune's probably okay.
Good enough for government work.
Yeah, good enough for a road trip. The lesson learned from this is that next time I want to check to see how the plugs are working, probably want to pull them before you seafoam it.
Yeah.
Because considering that it's completely even on all of them and they look exactly the same, I would say that that probably has something to do with the result. But we're almost done. I'm gonna make some carburetor adjustments after these are in, because there is no sense in doing a carburetor tune on old plugs. I'll keep those as spares.
Yeah.
I save good old plugs as spares.
Nice.
Because you never know if you need one on the side of the road for some reason.
That's a good idea, actually.
I can't think of many instances where you'd be changing a spark plug on the side of the road, but, you know, I'd rather have it.
If you drive a Ford.
I hope I don't have to change a spark plug on the side of the road, because then something's happened and it's not good. So in today's world of diagnostic tools, you have like ones that tell you stuff in words and old.
Needles.
Yeah. Vacuum gauge. This is your OBD reader for a vintage car, essentially, and this will tell you a lot of stuff, but I don't really, you know, care about that right now. I care about just, you know, setting it for the highest vacuum. And what I mean by that is setting the idle for the highest vacuum, because that's when it's going to be the most efficient on fuel, and that's what I care about right now, because this thing's going to drive hundreds of miles in a couple days. I guess what I'm going to do is fire it up, mess around with the carburetor until I can get the smoothest, highest vacuum. Like 18.5 inches of mercury. It's actually really, really good. So, well, let's see if we can do any better. I'm trying to lean it out until there's a response on the engine. A quarter turn in, you hear how it drop down? Yeah. Since she may be running a little lean and this car idles a lot, I'm going to give her another quarter turn out. Oh, don't mind that smoke. That's just the oil burning off. Turned her a little bit out. And now we'll do the other side, because you want to try to match them. That's pretty smooth. And we got almost 20 inches of mercury. It's smooth. So now let's check what the idle RPM is set at. And for an automatic, you want it to be like 800, because as soon as you put it in gear, it'll drop down to like 600. So let's set the idle RPM, and then we're pretty much done. Cool. It's already at 800. We're done. Cool. I'm not worrying about the transmission, because you and I already serviced that like last year. So yeah, it's fine. There's not enough miles on it to care. We're done with this. I guess now we gotta do the jet. So I think the next thing we need to do is pull the plugs on the jet, change the oil, because now it's broken in. It's ready for its actual good race oil. We changed it after the initial break-in, but I have 2 bottles of extremely expensive Redline oil to put in it. That's high ZDDP, so alright. Yeah, it's gonna be good for it. It says race on it, so it's gonna add like 10 horsepower. So as far as getting this thing ready for the road trip, it's pretty much done. I'm gonna pack a couple extra parts, like, you know, points, 2 sets, which I don't have. Spare condenser, which I do have. I have wiper refills and a spare voltage regulator and ballast resistor. It's all stuff that my grandfather told me I should probably keep in the car if I ever took this thing on a road trip years ago.
Those are talismans to ward off road gremlins.
Yeah, luckily I've never needed to change them except for a condenser once. This is done. Let's do race car stuff
Later?
tomorrow.
All right.